Good evening, everyone. Welcome, councillors, staff, and ladies and gentlemen in the gallery. Welcome to our special council meeting. The City of Swan disclaims any liability for any loss arising from any person or body relying on any statement, discussion, recommendation or decision made during this meeting. Where an application for an approval, a licence or the like is considered or determined during this meeting, the City warns that neither the applicant nor any other person or body should rely upon that discussion or determination until written notice of either an approval and the conditions which relate to it or the refusal of the application has been issued by the City. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed. The recording will also be archived and made available on the Council's website after the meeting. If you choose to participate during public question time, public statement time, it is assumed that your consent is given for the audio to be recorded. Please keep your comments respectful to the Council and other members of the community. Visual images of the public will not be captured. No electric, visual or audio recording or transmitting device or instrument is permitted to be used. A person who breaches this provision of the City of Swan Meeting Procedures Local Law 2019 will be required to immediately leave the premises. Attendances and apologies. I note we're all here. Are there no apologies?
Mr Mayor, no apologies.
Okay, no one on leave of absence. Okay, declarations of financial and proximity interest and interest affecting impartiality, Mr CEO.
Mr Mayor, we have a number of declarations of interest this evening and they all relate to the item of amend aspects of development approval DA 23418B, demolition, alterations and additions to the existing dwelling, including a loft conversion, lot 29, number 77 James Street, Guildford, DA 23418C. The first one is from Councillor Scanlon. It's an impartiality interest and the reason is applicant is known to me. The second one is from Councillor Richardson, the same item. It's a direct financial interest as the homeowner. Also Councillor Johnson. Councillor Richardson is an applicant and is a fellow councillor, and that's an impartiality interest. And then also Councillor Kiley, impartiality interest. And the reasons are, one, as an executive of the Guildford Association, I may have contributed to submissions on this item. And two, I had previously submitted an impartiality declaration on the basis that I attended a children's party there, and given it was on the same DA, I also declared that in the interest of transparency and consistency.
Any other declarations from either staff or council? No? Now move to public question time. Questions and answers recorded in the minutes of the meeting may be summarised in accordance with the Local Government Administration Regulations 1996. Questions and answers marked with an asterisk have been amended, either for the purpose of summarising, either removing preambles, statements or editing. Councillors, 5.2 questions relating to reports on the agenda, and they are the only things we address tonight. 5.2.1 questions for which due notice has been given, I have nil. Question 5.2.2 questions without due notice, and I believe Sarah Howlett has some question. No? None? Okay, that moves us now to public statement time. I have none registered. Neither councillors do I have any petitions. Let's now move to deputations, and there are 7 deputations this evening, and the first one is Mr Rhys Hendy from Planning Solutions on item 8.1, the proposed change of use showroom to shop. Thank you, Mr Hendy. You've got 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor and Councillors, and good evening. My name is Rhys Hendy, Senior Planner from Planning Solutions. We are the applicant for the change of use at 151 the Promenade, Ellenbrook, otherwise known as the former Masters Home Improvement Building. I'm simply here today to speak in support of the proposed shop tenancy, a use which will offer additional retail choice and benefit to Ellenbrook. The proposal is also one of the remaining steps in repurposing and activating the building. The City's officers have prepared a detailed report covering the key and relevant considerations of this proposal, and I thank the City for their favourable recommendation today. I wish I could say more. Thank you for your consideration this evening, and I'd be pleased to answer any questions on the change of use.
Councillors, any questions of Mr Hendy? No? Thank you, Mr Hendy. That was an easy one, wasn't it?
Thank you.
Okay, now move to 8.2, Mr Peter Dorlan. Miss Councillor Richardson, these regards to you. Should we leave the chamber, please? Thank you, Mr Dolan. I'll just get you to turn your speaker on the base. Right in front of you, it says speak. That's it.
That's better? Oh, yeah.
You have 5 minutes.
So we're now 3 years and still looking at the same issues. We want to try and get to the achievable outcome regarding this matter. So I'd just like to bring the attention on the first application that sought consultation from other agencies and it referred to the DPLH, in which they had proposed development considerably alters the original geometry of the existing roof by distorting its scale and proportion, and that the new addition is not clearly distinguishable from the original house. Furthermore, that in this regard, the DPLH have advised for both original and modified design that the new addition is too integrated, dominating, and is not clearly distinguishable from the original house. It is, however, noted that the Guildford Design Guidelines do allow for the additions.
Mr Doolan?
Yep.
That's a previous approval which has been taken care of.
Yep.
So you need to speak to the actual item that we're going to address tonight.
So the item is...
So the previous approvals we can't do anything about.
The item is in relation to a comment that was made. They were asking about the ridge lines on the roof not matching. They don't align, which reverts back to the plate height, which is questions asked in previous times we've been here. So I guess I'll just skip to it. Basically, it was noted in that application that the homeowner had tried to achieve this and had changed the roof angle from 53 degrees to 45, which had lifted the plate height from 3.6 to 4.6, and that enabled the ridge line on the roof to be aligned, which it isn't aligned currently. So I'd also ask that within this, there are some of the notes on the drawings that outline the outside walls to match the coarse brickwork and the existing building extension be painted antique white, and all eaves and window frames, which were shown on their plans. And just asking the question why we want to remove the white when we approved for the white back in 2018. So I do understand the homeowner wants to try and get things done, but it's a question I'm asking within that. And some of the things that I've asked also from the Heritage Council is that regarding the balcony, that I have I have an email which was provided me today that their values were given on a perspective basis only, not an assessment of the compliance in regards to the heritage values of their application. So I'm just finding it hard as a resident and a homeowner to try and depict what can and can't be done in relation to building homes around Guildford. It's very touch and go. In regards to the gazebo, obviously I would like to define the term gazebo as a pavilion structure shaped in the form of octagonal, and I'd ask for why the persistence of it when the application was for a pool shed, and shouldn't the applicant be applying to amend his DA 480 and not put it on top of an existing already application that has many amendments on top of it? So that's really
Okay.
what I have there.
Okay. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Scanlon.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to speak again, Mr Dolan.
Sure.
I just have a couple of questions for you because I'm just a bit unsure of exactly what you meant. And
Yep.
that's with changing the alignment of the roof. So it went from 3.6 metres to 4.6 metres. What do you mean by changing the alignment?
Well, the ridge lines on the roof don't match. You obviously changed the alignment of it because of different angles. I understand the homeowners have tried to amend things to make them work.
Okay.
I don't discredit that because any homeowner would try and make things, but the ridge lines don't match as stated that he said they would,
Okay.
which is the top of your roof.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Further. And how does that affect the application we have for the amendments?
Well, basically, I'd like to do things and I'm sure plenty of other people in the City of Swan would. And I guess if I want to change things, I suppose I could just make an amendment and... Yeah.
So it's but we're not. But the roof is approved. That roof structure has been approved,
Yeah.
and so the application that we have in front of us. Okay, so the other concerns you have are in regards to the antique white paint. The paint on the house,
The existing...
it's going to be removed.
Yeah, the existing part of the house, I understand the homeowners wanted to try and strip it off to make it reform with what's already there. But the existing home had the white paint on it, and that's what was shown on the plans. And then obviously they were going to paint the new addition white. That's what was approved on the plans.
Okay. So you don't want them to remove the old paint
Well,
because...
No, that's the original state of the building.
Okay. I just wanted to be clear about the concerns there.
Yeah.
Okay. And can I... Sorry, do you mind if I just ask another question?
You have another question?
Thank you. With the gazebo, you wanted to clarify exactly the terminology of the gazebo.
Well, I
Can
don't
you
need
explain that a little bit more?
I've got a picture of it right here. That's a gazebo.
Yeah, okay. That's one yep.
Yeah. But the application shows 4 walls, parapet walls, enclosed structure. There's a difference there straight away. So it doesn't have any RLs, it doesn't show me any boundary lines, there's nothing shown on the plan. So just be nice that it was clarified a little bit clearer.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll ask the staff later about that. Okay, thank
Any
you.
further questions of Mr Dolan?
No?
Thanks, Mr Dolan.
Yeah, sure.
Next speaker on this item is Mr Dan Richardson, the applicant. Thank you, Mr Richardson, and you've got 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, CEO and staff, councillors, for letting me finish off with my last comments. I'm just absolutely gobsmacked at how somebody, or many of my neighbours, 4 of them actually, and there is one neighbour, the one that's affected mostly, that does agree with all of my amendments. So it's not every one of my neighbours surrounding me that's got the issue. And why would they complain about every single amendment on my application? Councillors, it's a vendetta. That's what it is. They're not happy because they've built their fence wrong. It doesn't conform to the heights. And this is an ongoing problem.
Mr Richardson, I'd ask you to address your application,
Yeah.
which is you're here to talk about.
Okay. I hope you've all had time to look at the document that I provided you. It's evidence of material of balconies in the Guildford precinct, not just along the river line, also within the actual central hub of Guildford. As I mentioned before, I have had endorsement from members of the Guildford Association. Unfortunately, they won't obviously verify my claims because it was a verbal agreement or a verbal discussion. Precedence is key in something like this. I'm not trying to do something different. I'm trying to blend in with the actual fabric of the town by using old reclaimed bricks. Also, coursing my build exactly the same as the house. The house was originally brick. It was painted in the 1930s. So to say it's not original is wrong. It was originally brick. And we hope to be able to put it back to how it was and match the coursing on the back to the front. That's what we hope to do. I don't want to look in anybody's backyard. We just want it to get extra space in our rear yard because we're taking the parking off the street into our backyard, so we've lost some space. I don't want to look in people's yard. That's why I'm happy to put screening all around my property if I have to, if it, resolves the issue. It really isn't a problem to me that we want to look at the hills and that's basically it. Maybe a few planes that come over we might observe and just sit up there and have some, quiet time. We're not looking down on people or looking in anyone's backyard. There's nothing of any sort. That's not what we're trying to do. Carports, I'm amazed. They're objecting at a carport when one of the homeowners that's objecting, I think it's number 20 or 21, she's got a DA in for a carport now. And I understand the Doolans are about to do an extension. Are they going to ask for a carport? Are they going to ask to do a balcony, which they can do? I wouldn't have a problem with. So, you know, we're here tonight and they're basically trying to stop me from finishing off my build and carry on. So, please, councillors, staff, look at it in the subjective view with regards to what the evidence is in Guildford. There's sandstone Victorian pillar walls there with wrought iron fences already, a DA approved only last year by this council for one of those fences. And there's about 4 of them in Guildford. So to say that I can't have it now, I think is a joke, to be honest. And saying that my house has been bastardised was a comment that was made. If my house has been bastardised, the person that made that comment, Mr. Kissinger, or Darryl, he's wrecking the street by ripping out old trees about 100 years old. If that's not ruining the streetscape, I don't know what is. That's all I have to say on the matter. But let me please really reiterate this. Do not waste the ratepayers' money on making me go to SAT. So whoever votes for my neighbours to not have my balcony or any part of my amendments, you're just wasting ratepayers' money. That's all I have to say.
Any questions of Mr Richardson, councillors? None. Thank you, Mr Richardson. Next speaker is Ms Tabitha Vagliviello in regards to the Midland Dance Studio. Can someone just recall Councillor Richardson?
And whilst we're doing that, may I just ask you, Mr Mayor, I spoke to Tabitha before the meeting and she asked if she may be given 10 minutes to speak given the length of this nature of this situation. Wasn't quite sure what to call it.
Well,
situation.
Tabitha should have contacted me earlier. She's got 5 minutes, Tabitha.
She
thank you.
contacted me.
Well, you're not the presiding member, Councillor Scanlon.
No, and I'm asking you to please consider her to
I'll
speak
hear
for
her
10
5
minutes. This
I'll
has
hear
been
her 5
going on for many years for her. It's been carrying on for 4 years now. It's affected her life greatly. Please, can she have 10 minutes to present all the facts to
Councillor,
us?
I've said Tabitha's got 5 minutes like everybody
Okay,
else.
I'd like to move against the presiding member.
Do you have a seconder? Anyone in favour?
Yes, in favour.
Well, it's clearly lost.
Oh,
Carry
can
on,
you
Tab.
wait-
You sure there's no hands? Yeah. You can drop one of the other speakers if you wish, but Tabitha, carry on.
Firstly, can I just clarify it's not to do with Midland Dance Studios, it's to do with Zahara Dance Company. The two entities are completely different. I'll try and make this as quick as possible. I've grown up in the Midland and Hills area. I was wondering about how do I speak with you all again about this issue. I decided to be transparent, as I have been in the past, let you get to know me and provide some facts. What is Zahara Dance Company to me? Some of you speak about supporting domestic abuse, child abuse victims, and how this is so important. I couldn't agree more. I hail from an abusive, domestic, violent childhood. I have seen and suffered violent physical abuse, psychological abuse, sexual abuse from my mum's partners. I had a shotgun held to my head at the age of 7 and so much more. I moved out of home when I was 16, a few months before my TE exams, which I did not sit that year due to the circumstances. You see, I wanted to be a surgeon. The plan was to get into nursing, study for a year, excel, transfer to medicine. I put myself back through year 12, I did my TE exams, and I did get into university for nursing at Curtin, only to find I couldn't afford the books. Whilst HECS covered tuition at the time, I couldn't afford the $500 to $800 worth of books per semester and pay for my rent and food, etc. I had no family help. So I went to study Certificate 4 of Health and Fitness to aid me teaching dance. 20 years ago, I found belly dance and fell in love. I was in a dark place It helped me find confidence, self-acceptance, sisters, family, and so much more. I then took it to a professional level and started teaching to share this gift with other women. You see, women came to me. Some were just belly curious. Some wanted to have a bit of fun, but 90% are searching for a part of themselves, looking for healing, belonging, or in the words of our Vice President, Sharon Cooper-Chan, to see us perform, they would think, wow, she's not that young or slim or perfect. I too could be that beautiful. I tell you all of this to help you understand it's not just a bunch of women dancing around. There is a therapeutic element you are not factoring in. This is not only a cultural dance. We honour its authenticity and work hard to maintain, but it does, as it does in the Middle East, it joins females together, young, old, tall, short. It doesn't matter. We share the journey, support, connect, heal, and guide each other on our life journey. My dream was to create a dance company to inspire women to accept themselves, to strive for greatness within them, believe in themselves and each other, follow their dreams while studying and performing a multiculturally authentic dance at a professional standard, and provide performance opportunities for them, and further to have as many touch points in the community as possible to promote multiculturalism and tolerance. This is why I and ZDC are so passionate about all of our community work, of which each of our members that were allowed to speak will give you a snippet of the mammoth amount we do. Some of the free events in the City of Swan that we have done: Women's Wellness Expo at Belvoir Amphitheatre, Swanview Agricultural Association show several years running, the Riverside Ramble by the City of Swan's Rotary Group, Swanview Primary School Fete, the Tamil School Celebration in Ballajura. 2016, we hosted the West Australian Middle Eastern Dance Festival in Midland and received no support from the Shire. It's now moved to Fremantle. We had Fringe children's shows, and another member will speak about some of our work in regards to supporting other organisations helping victims of domestic abuse. These are only some of the events. This is not including some of the ones we've only been part paid for, giving massive discounts to organisers because they're community events. I have some documents here. So one of them is an email from the Department of Mines, Industry and Regulation, the Association's branch, confirming indeed our not-for-profit status, which has been called into question several times. So I'm happy to deliver that to you. ZDC was registered as a community group in 2014. I note in order to sign this lease, what we had with you, we had to be registered as a not-for-profit community group as requested by yourselves, the city. So at that time, you did recognise our community not-for-profit status in order to sign this lease. In 2014, the leasing agent changed, the Shire representative changed, and the rules changed into something we didn't originally sign up for. And had we been given all the correct facts, we wouldn't have signed that lease. We originally asked for a white elephant, which is why you gave us the tenancy at Stafford Court. Nobody wanted it and hasn't since we've left. Zahara Dance Company is being sued by the City of Swan for outstanding fees and charges to the sum of approximately $25,000. This does not include the $5,000 we've already spent on legal fees, nor the amount of nearly $9,000 we have outstanding with our lawyer, whom is so disgusted with this injustice, has decided to keep working on our case despite of this. There is no hidden money anywhere, and now the little amount we've worked for...
I've let you go an extra 30 seconds over. It would probably been better that you address that lease at the start of your speech. So I'm going to allow you to go for another minute and a half because you've now got to the crux of the issue. So if you can wrap it up in another minute and a half, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's no hidden money anywhere, and now the little amount we have worked hard for to try and fundraise has been wasted on lawyers. We have no money, no assets. It's a massive waste of ratepayers' money. Personally, all of this has affected me so much. I'm also personally under financial hardship. If you get judgment against us, again, there is no money. Zahara Dance Company will become insolvent. The process for insolvency is long and it has to go through Supreme Court. The local government administration regulation deems decisions are made on all report items in the best interest of the community. And I ask you, even those who are against the motion on the table and Zahara Dance Company, how is this court action and everything that has been done to us in the best interest of the wider community? And I just have, I'm happy to stop there. There was more, but I have the letter from the Community Associations branch and also a petition signed by over 500 people with the comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, councillors. Before you go, Tabitha, hang on. There might be some questions. Don't go away. Councillor, and I'd ask that they are questions, not Dorothy Dixon. So, Councillor Johnson, you were first.
Can you explain that phrase to me, Mr Mayor?
I think you're pretty aware of Dorothy Dixon. Answer your question.
Yeah, Tabitha, I'd like to ask if this matter is marked as confidential. That's why it's in this red folder here. Would you like this to be debated and decided in public so you can watch it?
I definitely would, because there's a massive outcry, as you'll see from the comments of our of what I just gave you, as to this is not in the best interest of the community.
Thank you.
Councillor Scanlon.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just note that you handed me a petition just then. I don't believe council has heard the wording of the petition. Mr Mayor, could I ask through you that Tabitha be allowed to read the wording of the petition she's just submitted for this?
I'm happy to send it. It's basically just to the facts, and I would need to get. I would have.
But we're going to be deciding this tonight.
Yes.
So we need to hear it.
Hang on. Just hang on. Well, it would have been nice if you said you had a petition. Have you got a wording for it?
I don't have it in a written form.
Well, petition usually starts off with "we the undersigned."
No.
Brief statement. What's the reason for the petition?
The petition was to call to the wider community as in support of the City of Swans to stop and drop the action against us.
Okay, I think we get the gist of what the petition tries to achieve. Okay, thank you. Any other further questions of Tabitha? Councillor Catalano.
Yes, thanks. How many signatures on there?
Over 500. So
500.
at last count there was 538, but that was just more along our smaller. We haven't sent it out.
And
to the wider community.
what's your what's the debt that you know? What's your understanding of how much is outstanding?
The disputed amount, which included outgoings, which weren't supposed to be part of the lease, is approximately $25,000.
Okay, then. Can you tell us a bit about the room that you hired for $25,000 and how long you hired it for? That period that the debt is for, was it for how many years? Or
2014 to 2019, I believe.
okay. And can you just tell us a bit about the room that you hired or the space you hired?
When we got it, it was a shell. The back area was full of at least 3 cubic metres of rubbish that I had to personally lug out myself, and I'm talking industrial waste and a whole range of like old mouldy carpet and things. The toilets weren't working. There was no stair nosing. It needed complete repainting. The roof leaked. The plumbing needed fixing. Electrical needed fixing. It was literally a mess.
Did it have any windows?
No windows. It has 2 doors. It had no air conditioning, no ventilation. It had 1 door to get in, and the back door wasn't usable because that went out to the fire escape and to the Centrelink car park.
Councillor Brodovnik.
My question is, since Zahara Dance Studio moved out, has there been anyone else that's moved into the building?
My understanding, that's no. Okay. Are there further questions? Thanks. Councillor Scanlon.
Thank you very much. I have a couple of questions just about the finances. How much did you spend on clearing out, painting, recarpeting, all the things you did to the building owned by the City of Swan? How much was that?
Before I did like refurbishing and things, probably in excess of about $8,500 to $10,000.
Okay.
But that doesn't include most of it was done hard yakka, like I did it myself. Like I was working like 100 hours a week and working a full-time job and also doing that at night to give us a home.
Sounds really tough. Really tough. Thank you for sharing everything with us tonight. I just have one further question about the outgoings. Of the $25,000 that is owed, do you know how much of that is disputed outgoings?
I would say a good $8,000 to $10,000, maybe in excess. I'd have to.
No, that's fine.
Approximately.
That's fine. That's
Some
great.
of that is also the legal charges of the claim as well against us.
So the
something like that.
$25,000 is including legal fees against you?
I think it's just. I'm not sure if it's lawyers' fees. I think that's separate. I don't really know how it all works, but yeah.
Thank you, Tabitha. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Johnson, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, Tabitha, could you tell us how much the annual rent was that the city was charging you?
Initially, we were told it was $15,000, approximately $800 per year, per calendar year. That's what we were quoted when we signed it. But then that was not the actual true case of it when we started, when we took the lease on.
What was the true case then?
Well, when you add on electricity and things like that, and it ended up being quite a bit more, which we weren't able to substantiate.
Councillor Parry, you're next. No, Councillor Congerton.
Thank you very much for coming in and giving your deputation. I wasn't on council when this issue started. So I'd like to ask you, I understand when I was speaking to the staff that they had requested from yourself the balance sheets and P&Ls from your incorporated body, and as of today they haven't received any. Can you tell me, have you supplied any P&Ls or balance sheets as per the requirement of the Incorporations Act?
I've never actually been asked, and we're happy to provide that. I've never been asked.
You've never been asked for any financials?
No.
Okay.
But we're happy to provide it.
You do have the financials?
We actually brought our bank statement in for you today, so our treasurer can give that to you so you can see, but we're happy to do that.
But the financials that you would provide at an AGM, and you would have an AGM in 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 20...
Yep.
20, because you wouldn't have probably done one for 21.
We're happy to go. I can have them to you within 24 hours. Not a problem.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions, councillors? Thank you, Tabitha.
No problem.
Our next speaker is Anne Southall on the same subject.
Good evening.
Thank you, Anne, and you've got 5 minutes. Thank you.
Yep. My name's Anne Southall. I joined the dance company for my mental well-being. It gives me connection to a strong friendship group of like-minded women, keeps me active and enables me to contribute to the wider community. I'm retired and have quite advanced osteoarthritis. Thank you. So the movement and companionship are vital to me. Throughout my adult life, I've been a great believer in contributing to the community, something ZDC does so well. I'm also speaking on behalf of Zoe Oliver, who joined us when she moved from Melbourne with her job. Zoe knew no one in Perth and ZDC became her family. She had been a very active community member in Melbourne and was keen to continue volunteering and contributing to the community. Zoe and I are both proud of what we have achieved, but the ongoing issues with the City of Swan have caused us considerable stress. As the Treasurer of ZDC, I'm aware of our limited funds and have lost many hours of sleep wondering how we can continue to pay our legal costs. Our fundraising mainly consists of Bunnings, sausage sizzles and chocolate drives, and the reason we fundraise is to allow us to support community groups in various ways. After paying our last legal bill, we have approximately $75 in the bank. As well as our legal bills, we have the demand from the City of Swan, which, if upheld, we have no means to pay. My husband and I are pensioners. After a lifetime of working and contributing to society and various community groups, we now have this financial issue hanging over our heads. Instead of my mental health being improved through belonging to a group whose aim is to support each other and contribute to the community, I'm very stressed and having difficulty sleeping. We donate much of our time to performing at charity and community events. Some of the events we support, several annually, are Buddha's Birthday, Darlington Arts Festival, the WA Multicultural Association, Harmony Day and various school fetes. We involve the audience where possible to further share the cultural experience of Middle Eastern dancing, which is community dancing. And we are keen to dispel the Hollywood stereotype of belly dancing. For several years, we have participated in Shimmy Mob. This is a worldwide not-for-profit organisation promoting awareness of domestic abuse and raising funds for women's shelters and organisations which support women and children. Groups participating in Shimmy Mob learn the same choreography worldwide and perform on the same day. Hundreds of cities worldwide are involved. For the first few years, we partnered with Parkerville Children and Youth Care Inc. We danced at their annual fete and raised funds for them. More recently, we have supported Kulkuna Women's Refuge by raising funds and awareness of their organisation and needs. Another group we've supported is Share the Dignity. We collected personal items which women do not have access to when they flee domestic abuse situations. As well as personal items, we donated and collected bags for the women to store those items. We organised a dance event at our studio where the entry fee was items for Share the Dignity. I would like to request that the City of Swan drops this legal action against Sahara Dance Company. The City is demanding payment of outgoings when the lease we signed stated we would not be liable for outgoings. Two separate lawyers have deemed that our original lease, stating that we will not be liable for outgoings on a self-contained unit, is valid. We previously needed to engage a lawyer when the City of Swan attempted to evict us, even though we had a current lease. They wanted us to sign a new lease, so we would need to pay outgoings. When we declined, they gave us a few days to vacate the premises. They threatened to change the locks and keep any of our property we had been unable to move by that date. The lawyer we engaged wrote to tell them we had a valid lease, and if they entered the property, they would be trespassing. Furthermore, they could not keep our property. This cost $1,400 of our hard-earned funds. We are unable to pay what's being demanded and have no funds for further legal advice. If the City of Swan persists in this action, they are penalising a group of women with few assets, as a group and individually, whose only aims are to dance, appreciate another culture and support community groups. Their action will destroy us as a community group and personally. We've already lost our performance space, the Stevenson Theatre, which reduces our ability to perform shows for the community, as well as individually having to pay more for rehearsal space. This issue needs to be discussed in an open forum, as I believe we have community support. Those we speak to or who have read our petition are horrified by the actions of the City of Swan. And I have our latest bank statement, which shows we have $74.94 in the bank, and I'm able to access all the others to give you the information that you require. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Southall. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Anne, can you tell me whether you would, this is a confidential item, would you like it to be heard in public?
Yes, I would.
Thank you.
Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Mayor. You said that you had an agreement for no outgoings that was in a written lease?
Yes, it was itemised on the side of the lease. It was written down the side that there were to be no...
Who wrote it?
The leasing agent.
Okay, and had that then been signed and agreed?
Yes.
By Sahara, and also the city?
Yes.
Thank you.
No other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Cathy Ross on the same subject.
Good evening, Mr Mayor and councillors. My name is Cathy Ross. I'm a committee member of the Sahara Dance Company. I wish for the City of Swan to drop its legal action against Sahara Dance Company and forgive the disputed debt. I would very much like for this item to be discussed openly by Council also. I welcomed the opportunity to join the not-for-profit Sahara Dance Company when it was presented to me because it enabled me to have a place to come to dance classes, rehearse for performances, attend committee meetings and help host dance events. I particularly liked the idea of bringing Middle Eastern dance to the local and wider community, supporting the Act, Belong, Commit movement, which promotes involvement in activities that improve mental health and well-being. For the last several years, we've held an Act, Belong, Commit mentally healthy morning tea at the dance studio, which helps raise awareness of the importance of staying physically active, belonging to a community, and participating in activities that are meaningful to ourselves. It is heartening to know there are councillors from the City of Swan publicly supporting women's groups and multicultural groups. Women are still struggling in society, still not seen as equals, highlighted by the fact that councillors here feel they need to add that to their election campaigns. I gain a lot from being a member of Sahara Dance Company. Belly dance helps me stay physically fit and flexible and mentally healthy. I love to perform, and the joy I feel when I'm dancing is communicated to people watching, so I actually feel like I'm spreading joy in the community and encouraging other women of all ages and from all walks of life to give belly dance a go. I truly feel we are reaching out to women and offering them a safe, healthy and life-enriching path through dance. I particularly love it when we are approached by Middle Eastern people after we've danced at an event who tell us how much they loved our dancing. It gives me a real kick to know we are presenting dance that resonates with the Middle Eastern community, not to mention the social benefits and the friendships formed. In a way, we are like family. I can't imagine what my life would be like without dance and without the purpose ZDC gives me to put our dance in the spotlight. My mental health would definitely suffer. The current legal battle with the City of Swan has caused a lot of uncertainty within our committee and fears for its future. It's also stalled our fundraising efforts. We have lost our wonderful theatre, which we used to host a variety of events. We can't help others if we have no venue to use or if the company is disbanded due to insolvency. I strongly urge the City of Swan to abandon its legal action and to drop all disputed debt, to allow Sahara Dance Company to continue its community-minded work. I believe it will be of more benefit to ratepayers to write off the disputed debt than to continue spending ratepayers' money chasing what may be a relatively small amount for the City of Swan, but to ZDC it's an almost insurmountable sum of money. Rather than hounding a not-for-profit group into the ground based on unfair service charges on what was supposed to be a community lease, I feel the City of Swan would be better served forgiving the disputed debt and allowing us to get back to helping the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of Ms Ross? No, thank you. And the last speaker is Melissa Gallia on the same subject.
Good evening, councillors. My name is Melissa Gallia, and I was a founding member of Sahara Dance Company 7 years ago. And my hope is that after having heard about our dance group and what we do in the community, and after hearing the details of the legal action, that the people in front of me will move to have the legal action dropped and all of the alleged charges forgiven. I'm actually very, very proud to be involved with the good works of our organisation. It was founded, I was there when it was founded, with a list of very clear objectives which are outlined in our association's constitution. And among these objectives, the two that I am most passionate about and always have been are the objective to foster and promote an interest and understanding in Middle Eastern performing arts in the community, and to increase tolerance of multiculturalism by sharing the beauty of each culture represented by the dance company. Middle Eastern dance is actually very varied, because the Middle East is a very big place with a very rich history, and it is misrepresented in the media at times. So it's very important to me and to my fellow dance company members to bring the cultural aspects to centre stage and to share that with people. And to this end, over the years, we have presented a huge number of performances and workshops for the community, the majority of which have been unpaid. And a great percentage of these unpaid performances have been in the City of Swan itself, which my fellow dance company members have spoken about already. And these have always been aimed at promoting inclusivity, bringing joy to the community, but also increasing tolerance and diversity. As the years have progressed, we've expanded our role as a women's group in particular and further undertaken good works, including providing services, support and donations to those affected by domestic and family violence, to other women's organisations locally and throughout the state, and to children's services. We have provided free performances and workshops, and we have raised money through our initiatives such as Shimmy Mob. Zahara Dance Company is a not-for-profit association, not a business. All the money that goes into our bank account is fundraised through either Bunnings sausage sizzles, Cadbury chocolate drives, and the odd paid performance. And we do have our treasurer's report from our yearly AGM to back that up. In 2014, Zahara Dance Company took over a lease for a very rundown property from the City of Swan. I remember walking into that building for the first time and thinking that we must be crazy for taking it on because it was in such a state of disrepair. It needed electrical and plumbing. There were leaks in the ceilings. There were no smoke alarms affixed to the ceilings either. It was through considerable hard work, donations of materials, and donations of own funds that we brought the building up to a really high standard. The City of Swan's claim against us is for outgoings such as electrical fees. It's not for any outstanding rent, it's just for outstanding outgoings. And to the best of my personal knowledge, these costs should not be charged. It was agreed with the City of Swan at the time of the lease that no outgoings would be liable by Zahara Dance Company. Although I was not a signee on the lease, I have seen the document and it's written on it very clearly. Now, I am a resident and I'm a ratepayer and I'm a voter in the City of Swan, and I have lived in the Altone ward for over 16 years. In my opinion, it is ridiculous that the rates that I pay are being used by the City of Swan to take legal action against a group that has less than $75 in its bank account. If these proceedings continue, it is likely that Zahara Dance Company will become insolvent, which would be devastating because we would have to disband and we couldn't continue our good work. But even if the City of Swan is successful in the court proceedings, as we have no funds to pay this, it is likely that we'd be forced into insolvency immediately, and the City of Swan would not be able to recover the monies anyway. I could not think of a poorer use of my own taxpayer dollars. Over the last 2 years, it has broken my heart to see the toll that these legal proceedings have taken on my really good friends, my sisters in dance. From a dance company perspective, fundraising dollars that have come from performances, from sausage sizzles, etc., have been put towards lawyers' fees instead of towards the multicultural endeavours that I am passionate about and that we hope to use them for. The hours that we have spent in special meetings and drafting letters to our lawyer have been taken away from time that should be spent planning and organising our workshops and our performance opportunities. And of course, the other cost is the mental toll it takes on all of us. Anxiety in our dance company is at an all-time high. There have been many sleepless nights and endless worry. I've watched incredibly passionate women become weary, very weary, as our conversations move from making a difference to simply surviving this legal battle. This year we were not able to participate in Shimmy Mob as we have on an annual basis. Because
Thank you, Ms. Gallier. I let you go well and truly over time.
Oh.
Any questions, councillors? Councillor Catalano.
Thank you. So the Zahara Dance Company is an incorporated association?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So you've got like committee,
yes,
chair, and yeah. Is it your understanding, as it is, I think it's my understanding, but do you have the same understanding as me that actually an incorporated association, one of the things about it is that if it is wound up, I mean, that actually the whole point of it is that the rest of the membership is indemnified from that amount that's owed. That's the reason why incorporated associations are formed, in fact.
Yes, so in the case that we become insolvent, we sell all of our assets, which consist of a couple of skirts and hip scarves, and that money has to be donated to another organisation like ours, or in the case of legal action, that's where it goes.
Yes. But the reason why you set it up as an incorporated association is that the membership is not responsible for any kind of liabilities.
Yes,
financial liabilities.
Certainly another aspect.
And that doesn't just apply to your organisation as an incorporated association. In fact, it applies to all incorporated associations in Western Australia. Isn't that correct?
That's my understanding.
Yeah, it's mine as well. Thank you.
Councillor Congleton.
Thank you. My question would be, are you engaged in the Treasury component of this organisation?
I'm the secretary for Zahara Dance Company at the moment.
Then you may be able to answer my question. If the amount of money was to be written off by the City of Swan, would your organisation could be insolvent? Or do you know if you're currently trading insolvent?
At the present moment, without these legal proceedings occurring, it's my understanding that we have $75, so that we have no other debt that I'm aware of, so we wouldn't be insolvent immediately. Our lawyers' fees, I believe, are paid up to date now, so we wouldn't be insolvent immediately, no. That's my understanding, but I might have to check.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Henderson.
Thank you. Do you remember what year the air conditioning went in?
I don't remember what year the air conditioning went in exactly.
Okay. When did you become aware of bills from the City of Swan for the outgoings?
Before leaving the premises, there were charges on the account that were not accounted for, like there was in excess to the rent that we were paying. So we disputed that at the time through various email chains. You can follow that. But the charges started occurring, was it about 2017? 2018. 2018 is when the extra charges started being applied to the account, such as the electrical bills.
So you had received those bills and they were effectively an account to be paid?
They were an account to be paid, but we were paying the rent. So we were still making payments to the City of Swan throughout this period.
The rent, but not the outgoings?
I think some outgoings actually were paid by us.
But not all?
But not all. It wasn't until we realised that there were outgoings that we had not agreed to. So we initially started paying and then we realised we had not agreed to those. So in fact our counterclaim states that.
I just want to be clear that your committee was aware that there were claims for an account and that they had not been paid. Is that right?
When you say claims for account, are you talking about rent or are you talking about electrical outgoings?
There's a claim against the lease. The lease is, whether it was a new lease or an old lease.
Yes.
The point is there was a claim for it. Your committee was aware of the claim for those
Point of order, Mayor. I'm sorry. Can I just make a point? Sorry, Councillor Henderson. To your earlier point, we're not dealing with those issues, those matters. They have been dealt with at a previous decision of Council. We're not considering those aspects tonight.
Well, I think, Councillor Henderson, you're just clarifying that for your own knowledge. Am I correct?
Well, I am, but I'm also trying to come to where Councillor Congleton was coming to, and he beat me to the punch about the insolvency question. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Johnson, you're next, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Melissa, the same question as I have asked everybody else. Would you like this confidential item to be heard in public?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
Councillor Coley.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you for your deputation and informative discussion, I suppose you prompted. I think councillors are under the belief that this is only a Midland issue, and I heard that you come from the Altone ward, so I just want to thank you for putting your hand up and being involved. And so there are other people from other areas of the City of Swan involved in the Zahara Dance Club. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I live in Lockridge, but and we've performed all over the City of Swan, not just in Midland, and we've given our time to many events, including Ellenbrook and such. Thank you.
Any other questions, councillors? Okay. You can take a seat now. Councillor Catalani, your question to staff.
Yes, thanks. I think it's to Ms Lay. A Swan grant, you know, like that's the community grant. It can be given to an incorporated association for a value of around about 20,000 or more. I mean, what's the Swan grant worth? Which is, you know, what the city, you know, will pay an organisation to provide community services.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I don't have the amounts in front of me, but there are different categories under the Swan Grants program, and they range from small grants of $1,000. There's one set, I believe, is up to 5,000. There's the proactive grants, which I believe are up to 25,000.
25,000.
There's a range.
Thank you. Thanks for that.
Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. My question really relates to the very good questions and comments that Councillor Catalano has made. As we're dealing with an incorporated association here, which is an incorporated body, we're taking the incorporated body to court for, $25,000, and they've got $75 in the bank. So what happens if we're successful? They hand over their $75,000. $75, yeah, not 75. Sorry. They hand over their $75. What happens next? Does the city then start pursuing the individual members of the association? Yeah, that's a question to the staff here. My understanding is you can't.
Lay, is that yours?
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. I believe when the summary judgment will be assessed by the court that there will be an element of means testing to determine a repayment program. That's my understanding.
So the means testing is of the association?
That's correct.
Okay. So if we went ahead with this, the Zahara Dance Company would be saddled with years of debt repayments. Is that correct?
Mr Mayor, I can't predict what the court will rule, but that seems logical that the debt would be spread over a number of years to be able to be repaid.
Okay. Further questions, councillors? Thank you. That takes care of deputations. Announcements by the presiding member, I have nil. Councillor Johnson had a question which was also answered by Councillor Podolnik and answered. That takes us to the items on the agenda, and the first one is the proposed change of use for the tenancy at number 5, from showroom to shop at lot 8336, number 151 at Promenade, Ellenbrook. A mover, Councillor Jones, a seconder. Councillor McCulloch, is there anyone against? Declare that carried. We now move to the next item on the agenda, which is amended aspects of development approval, DA 234/18, demolition, alterations and additions to the existing dwelling, including a loft conversion at lot 2977 James Street, Guildford. Councillor Richardson is leaving the chamber. And Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Unusually, Mr Mayor, this particular alternate motion has not been emboldened with the parts that are different, which presents me with a bit of a challenge because I have to read the whole thing out. Do you want me to read the whole thing out?
Yes, please.
All right.
Well, if you don't know off the top of your head what the changes are, then start reading.
Okay. Well, I want to make sure I get it right, Mr Mayor. So, the Council resolved to modify development approval DA 234/18 pertaining to Lot 29, number 77, James Street, Guildford, by approving an amendment to the front roof line, the installation of 22 solar panels and 7 skylights to the roof, the existing face brick of the house to be returned to natural brick colour, the installation of a Victorian fan gable infill with glass inlays to the front facade of the house, the installation of a double carport and pool gazebo and a front fence to Hubert Street, subject to the following conditions. 1. The piers of the front fence are to be constructed of face brick with wooden fence palings. 2. Suitable arrangements
being made for the connection of the land to the comprehensive district drainage system at the landowner developer's cost. The estimated contribution amount is currently estimated to be $327.78. This is based on the current 2021 financial year rate of 6.7547 per square metre and the additional roof area of 48.525 square metres to the satisfaction of the City of Swan in accordance with the City of Swan Policy POL-C-096 Guildford and South Guildford District Drainage Development Fund. Payment shall be made prior to the issuance of a building permit application or prior to any work commencing on the site and or prior to the commencement of the use permitted by this approval at the earliest instance. 3. External colours, finishes and materials to be used in the construction of the building are to be in accordance with the approved colour schedule as dated, marked and stamped, attached with the approved plans unless otherwise approved in writing by the City of Swan. 4. Construction of the first floor loft addition to the dwelling shall incorporate noise insulation where practicable to achieve the indoor design sound levels recommended for the building type and activity as prescribed in the Australian Standard 2021 Acoustics, Aircraft Noise Intrusion, Building Siting and Construction. This noise-sensitive development adjacent to an existing major transport corridor must implement measures to ameliorate the impact of transport noise. 6. The development is to comply with WAPC's State Planning Policy 5.4 Road and Rail Transport Noise and Freight Considerations in Land Use Planning and implement noise insulation deemed to comply packages for this residential development. 7. All stormwater produced from the property shall be collected and disposed of into the existing drainage system of the property. 8. Earthworks, footings and or structures are not to extend over any lot boundaries. 9. The proposed gates shall open wholly within the subject lot. 10. The applicant is to ascertain the location and depth of any services that may interfere with this development. Any adjustment to these services required as part of this approval must be arranged by the applicant prior to works commencing on the site. Any adjustment must be approved by the relevant service authorities and will be at the applicant's expense. 11. Any additional development which is not in accordance with the application the subject to this approval or any condition of approval will require further approval of the City. 2. I think this is one of the change bits. Not approved. The proposed installation of a balcony with balustrade with an appurtenant French door to the southern facade of the existing dwelling for the following reason. 1. The installation of a balcony is not considered to be consistent with the style of the existing dwelling nor the style of other dwellings within Hubert Street. 3. Note the reason for changing the recommendation is to ensure that the modifications to the existing house at 77 James Street are in keeping with the heritage character of Guildford.
Seconder. Let me get a seconder first, then propose amendment. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Well, I've got Councillor Catalano was first, so what's your amendment, Councillor Scanlon?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The amendment I'd like to make is actually taken from the wording on Councillor Kiley's motion, and that's point number 3, so councillors should have that in front of them, and that is, within 6 months of the date of this decision, the opening in the southern facade of the building that was to be for the installation of the French door is to be completed with a dormer window in accordance with the original approval. That's it.
That's right.
I'm okay on that one.
Is there anyone against? Further amendment. Okay, well, if there's no one against, then that becomes part of the standard motion. You've got a further amendment?
I've got 3, Mayor. I'll deal with them individually if that's okay.
Well, I think one of yours is already there.
I've still got 3 to go.
I'm looking at your other one. You've got your new paragraphs 2 in regards to the fence, paragraph 3 in regard to the gazebo.
And the removal of the word front in the point 1.
Yeah, okay.
So there's 3. So I'll deal with the first one. The removal of the word front in the second last line of point 1, councillors. The installation of a double carport, pool gazebo and a fence to Hubert Street. I just wanted to remove the confusion about it being the front fence or the Hubert Street.
Okay with the mover and the seconder?
Yeah.
That one's okay.
Councillor Catalano, you want the seconder? Okay.
The second
Is
amendment.
there anyone against that amendment? No. Okay, that becomes
The second
part of
amendment,
substantive.
Mayor, is, as you pointed out, points 2 and 3 have highlighted in the alternative motion that I've got before councillors. Point 2 in my motion would be the fence is to be no higher than 1.8 metres above ground level as measured at the front boundary of the lot.
Got no problem with that one.
Seconder? Is there anyone against? Okay, that becomes part of the substantive.
And the last one, councillors, is the gazebo is to be offset 0.3 metres or 300 millimetres from the southern side of the lot, and stormwater generated by it is to be fully contained on site.
Moving the seconder.
I don't agree with that one. I don't agree with the offset, and the motion already explains where the storm water is going to.
Okay, so you're moving that as an amendment. I need a seconder to the amendment. There's a seconder, Councillor Parry. Is there anyone against the amendment? No one against. I'm going to
Against.
Councillor Johnson, Councillor Colley, you can open the debate.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillors, there was an existing shed there prior to the gazebo, and in the original plans that was to be pretty much replaced as it was before. However, the gazebo, given its structure, has let's go back to the initial building and the one that was initially approved. It was a gable roof and shed water within the property. But this design of the gazebo will, albeit small, will shed water into the neighbouring property or onto the neighbour's fence. So this slight change is simply to ensure that the building itself stays within the actual boundaries of the property, and any water produced from it would be shed into the given lot. It's a slight change. I believe that the 300 millimetres that it's set back from the neighbour's property will permit the neighbour to enjoy the benefit of a consistent fence to her side property. It will also ensure that the majority of the work will occur on the neighbours, on the given lot, the development applications, the lot, and will not affect the neighbour to the south. It also serves the benefit of it being a storage area for a range of pool items, so it may have an upside to being set back, but I think to give the neighbour peace of mind, and I think the setback of 300 millimetres is not much to consider. I encourage you to support it. I think it would maintain the peace between neighbours. As you've heard from the applicant himself, there is a considerable amount of angst in the community about the development, so I basically supporting the applicant here by ensuring that we support a development application which would keep the peace somewhat. So it's a slight change, and I think it's a benefit to everybody in the area. Thank you.
Councillor Parry is a seconder.
Nothing further to add, Mr Mayor.
Okay. Question, Councillor Scanlon.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through you to the staff, I'd like to ask the Manager for Statutory Planning to help me understand the diagram on page 52. And the reason I'm asking this is I had been under the assumption that the shed had been right up against the boundary, like the planned gazebo is to be. But in this diagram, it looks like the shed is set back from the boundary by about roughly the same amount as Councillor Kiley's motion. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr Mayor, the diagrammatic representation is correct, as you can see on the left-hand side of the page, which is it shows an iron shed. There's no setbacks marked on that to say, but it's clearly not on the boundary in the way the diagram to the other side clearly shows the gazebo being two side boundaries, including the southern side boundary. I can't comment as to whether the offset of that is at 30 centimetres or 0.3 of a metre. I wouldn't like to be inaccurate in the response, but it's true to say it's not on the boundary in the way that the gazebo is.
Thank you, Mr Russell. Further question, Councillor Scanlon.
Thank you to you again. Through you, Mr Mayor, to Mr Russell again. I'd just like to ask if, in planning terms, is there a definition for gazebo that will need to be adhered to in this application?
Mr Russell.
Mr Mayor, I can honestly say, for the benefit of the council, it doesn't make a difference. And in fact, at the meeting, you can substitute the word gazebo for pool shed, pool house, summer house, or any of the like. We've used the term gazebo because that is what the applicant has put in their application and depicted on their plans. You heard what Mr Dolan said. I'm not going to bore you with architectural details, but certainly from a planning perspective, is what the applicant has named it in their application, so it's correct to refer to it as a gazebo.
Thank you. Councillor, who had a question there? Councillor Catalano.
Yes, thanks. Is it correct that the water is going to go onto the neighbouring property off the gazebo?
Mr Russell.
Mr Mayor, the plans in the application don't clearly indicate whether or not the sides of the gazebo has a gutter or not. It doesn't indicate whether it's got a gutter. It doesn't indicate then whether there are any downpipes to a soak well within the site to indicate that the storm water generated from this pitched roof on the gazebo will be retained and not sheet off the pitched graded roof that runs to the southern side of the property. And if it did that without being intercepted by a gutter of some sort, then clearly rainwater from the roof will sheet directly over the property into the adjoining property of Ms Scorers. We can't say off the plans whether it's got a gutter or not. Certainly you might say at the building stage, when they lodge an application for this, they will be required to indicate whether or not there's gutters on the application. But we can't tell off the plans submitted because the plans don't show any form of gutter or any form of downpipe. It just doesn't have that level of detail, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Keller,
all right, thanks. What I'm trying to ask is, would the gutter, if there was a gutter built on that gazebo, would that protrude beyond the boundary of the property?
Mr Russell.
No, Mr Mayor, if there is a gutter on the side of the gazebo roof, it will have to be within the property boundary.
But from the plans that we've got before us, that's possible, is it? Or is that just a, when they do the building and get the building permit later, that then adjusts to accommodate the building going into that space with the gutters?
Mr Russell.
Well, again, Mr Mayor, the plans are the level of plans that you get with planning applications. They're somewhat rudimentary. I don't want to infer from this as to whether or not a gutter is going to protrude over. The gutter would be in line with the parapet wall and not extending beyond it into the boundary.
Councillor Johnson.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, look, I'm getting the new facts here because, Mr Mayor, when I was at the consultation with the neighbours in the admin building with a number of other councillors, the neighbour to the south told us that the shed or the garage was flush with the wall, and when the garage or shed was knocked down, that resulted in the fence being removed. So these plans show something different to that. So I wouldn't mind asking through you, Mr Mayor, if Mr Russell could comment on that. Probably can't, but was there actually a shed or a garage flush with the wall?
Mr Russell.
Through Mr Mayor, I think you might have just heard it from the gallery from Mr Richardson, who would know the disposition of his property before he removed his shed, and I believe Mr Mayor, he said it flushed with the boundary. I can't deduce that off the plans. I haven't got historical photos of what was more recently there before. I could obtain that, but I'm not in a position to advise tonight.
Thank you. Councillor Lucas.
Thank you, through you, Mr Mayor, to Mr Russell again. So we haven't got the detail where there's going to be a parapet wall with a gutter on that southern boundary, but my understanding is point 8 of the officer's recommendation, which reads, all stormwater produced from the property shall be collected and disposed of into the existing drainage system of the property, and it's point 7 in Councillor Johnson's, would adequately cater for any water coming off that roof into a gutter system and being retained on the Richardson's property. Is that correct?
Mr Russell.
Thank you.
Okay. We've had, we're back down to a speaker against Councillor Colley's amendment. So Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, Mr Mayor, the reason for not including this item in my motion
was just that I understood that, and I understand that we just have the facts confirmed, that originally there was a shed in this location that was flush with the wall. So therefore it seems entirely reasonable to allow the new gazebo to be also flush with the wall or the boundary. I also think it's wise not to try to modify the gazebo design, because as you can see from looking at the plans, it's extremely tight there, and we've no idea whether reducing the gazebo by 30 centimetres or more would make the gazebo unusable. I think it would be unfair without getting into more detail. And basically, those are my reasons. Also, because it says very clearly that the stormwater produced from the property will be collected and disposed into the existing drainage system of the property. So there will be no stormwater going onto the neighbour to the south. And in addition, if you visit the site and look at the house to the south, you'll see that in approximately the position of the gazebo, there is a roofed carport, which basically blocks the light to the front door anyway. So I don't think the gazebo is going to have any overshadowing or blocking effect that's different to the carport or different to the original shed or garage that was there. So that's my reason for opposing this amendment.
Okay. Speaker for the amendment. Any other speakers against the amendment? Councillor Coley, you can close.
Thank you, Mayor. Could I draw Councillors' attention to the side views of the actual gazebo, which show that there is no guttering provided for on that actual building? I'm not sure. I'm working off page 711 of the previous agenda. There is no guttering shown on the gazebo. Now, to Councillor Johnson's point, or Councillor Lucas's point, if we were to include, or say in the building certificate stage, to provide for a gutter, that would require cleaning of on an intermittent basis, which would then require the applicant to enter the neighbour's property, put up a fence, and actually clean the gutters from the neighbour's property side on a, I don't know, 6-monthly, yearly basis. Again, it just provides for a situation where the neighbours might not be happy about their neighbour coming in and cleaning their gutters simply because the gazebo is butting right up against the neighbour's property. Sorry.
Okay, Mr. Richardson, thank you.
I have taken the plans as given, and it doesn't show a gutter. I have allowed for a 300mm setback, so there's no need to have a gutter as per the plans. So the water sheds right within the applicant's property. So it seems the most appropriate modification to the plans. And bear in mind, we're only looking at a 300mm setback. It's not much at all, but it would provide for the plans to be approved as they are without any addition of a gutter, and then for the water to be shed in the subject lot. So it's just a better change to it. Bear in mind that if we approve the gazebo on the neighbour's property as a parapet wall, and then there's some requirement to put in a gutter in the future, then there's going to be disputes between the neighbours. You know, there's always a dispute over little inches that encroach into the neighbour's property. So this is just a better outcome for everybody concerned, for the applicant, for the neighbours, and I encourage you to support it. This is to the benefit of the whole community there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coley. Those in favour of the amendment? 4 against, so it is carried. 5 against, including Councillor Lucas. Okay, so now we go back to the amended motion. As it stands, amended. Is there anyone against the motion as amended and carried? Okay. No one against? Then we'll declare it carried. Thank you, councillors. That takes care of those. We now move to Part C, which is the confidential folder. You recall Councillor Richardson. Just wait. You go, Dave. You never get back. A motion from Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, before I begin the motion, I'd like to move that this item be held in public.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Scanlon. Is anyone against? Motion being there is. Councillor Lucas. And we should debate it.
Just a question, if I could. Is it reasonable to ask that if it was moved, that it be held in public, that we could hold a certain section of it in private, in behind closed doors?
I don't think so, Councillor. It relates to court action and legal proceedings. That's the issue you have to decide on. Okay, so I've got to move in a seconder. Is there anyone against? There is. Councillor Lucas. We wish to debate it. Councillor Johnson, where
Yeah, I'd just like to explain briefly, Mr Mayor. I think we've heard from the Zahara Dance Company that they would like this to be held in public. I think it's clear what the outcome of this would be. I think this has been an ongoing issue, and I think its resolution needs to be dealt with in public, so we can see that it's over. I don't think it would be. I think it's in the council's interest as well to hold this debate in public. Thank you.
Okay, the seconder, Councillor Scanlon.
Actually, I'd like to ask a question of the staff, please, Mr Mayor.
Okay.
I'd just like to ask through you to the governance staff whether there's anything in the Local Government Act that requires us to discuss matters pertaining to legal action behind closed doors.
Ms Albright.
Through you, Mr Mayor. The Local Government Act allows the council to go behind closed doors for particular reasons. One of those reasons is if you are considering legal advice or if you are in legal proceedings, but it's always a decision of council to go behind closed doors.
Thank you. So my understanding, it's not prescribing that we must, it's our decision if we choose to.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, you wish to speak as a seconder?
Realised you were speaking with me. No, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Lucas, against the motion?
Yes, thank you. I just believe that this has always been a confidential item. It relates to a lease agreement between the City of Swan and a third party. Like we've got many lease agreements, and I don't believe that this should be discussed in open. I'm happy for it to remain behind closed doors. Thank you.
Okay. Any other speakers for the motion? Councillor Badovnik. See, for the motion. Well, then it's your turn.
I just want to say very quickly, just in response to that, we've already heard very clearly what the issue is with the lease. We've already heard very clearly about the legal action and why it's been taken. I don't think there's anything that hasn't been discussed openly and in public today, so I think we should just get on with voting and getting on with it.
Okay. Any speakers against? Councillor Johnson, you want to wrap it up?
There's only one thing I can say really is in response to Councillor Lucas's comment that we're only waiving confidentiality for this one item, just about Zahara Dance Company, that's all. It doesn't affect any other legal action in the city. And as it's very clear that the other party to the legal action wants this debate held in public and the decision made in public, it's appropriate to remove the confidentiality from this item.
Okay. Those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Motion is lost. We can now go behind closed doors. Last people in the gallery and the press, if they could leave the chamber. Yep. Just need that motion. Councillors, go behind closed doors. Was it 5 or 6? It was 5. No, I thought it was 5, but... Yeah, it was 6. 6? Okay. 6? Still lost. Okay.
We're just correcting it now. 6. It was 6. We were just talking.
Okay. Just need a motion. Okay. Just need a motion, councillors, to go behind closed doors. Moved Councillor Lucas, second Councillor Parry. Those who are against, because we've already decided that. So, those in favour? We're behind closed doors. Yep. Oh. Councillor, those in favour of going behind closed doors? Thank you.